And I think that's what resilience is. It's changing the narrative of your story. Making sure, like if you're going through a really difficult time, don't just sit there stuck in that space. Like continue that story, but change it so that you come out a winner, and you come out, inspiring, not just yourself and the people around you, but, the world.
Hello, everybody. This show has been created to inspire you to take action.
Celebrating and reframing what success looks like.
To be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
And we have incredible speakers for you tonight. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Future Female Show. We are your hosts. I'm Lauren Dallas, and this is the lovely Susanna Kennedy.
Hello everybody, it is so good to see you again. As you know, the Future Female Show is a show that aims to reframe what success is for you, to help you bring inspiration into your life and motivate you to become the best version of yourself that you can be. We have amazing guests this evening, and the first one up is a woman I met a while ago, and she just blows me away with her absolutely enormous, huge heart, and also her stories of resilience and how to take your business and be a conscious entrepreneur that is really an impactful entrepreneur. I know that her biggest desire is to make an impact, but she also runs an incredible business at the same time. So I am so excited to invite my very good friend, Liza, to the show. Liza, how are you doing today?
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good, considering it is quite late in Melbourne, but it's such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely a pleasure. Now, Liza, you have spoken across the world on various stages. You are an amazing author. You have courses. You speak about so many really important subjects. But I'm not going to introduce you too much because I really think the best person to describe who you are and what you do and a little bit about your story that brought you to this point is you. So do you want to tell our audience who you are?
Yes, that'll be fine. I'm Liza. I'm a mother. I'm a keynote speaker. I am a survivor. Most of all, I'm an entrepreneur. And I have a very unique story. I guess you'd say something like a cat with 9 lives or something like this. I've had lots of different things happen to me. Growing up as a child, I was touched with sexual abuse. Going into teenagehood, I had experienced, rape by a family member, a cousin, and then, feeling so miserable with how my family was handling the situation because they simply did not know how to deal with it. It wasn't that they were bad parents. It wasn't that they were horrible or anything like that. Just didn't know how to handle it at that time. With all that misery that was going on within me, I became a runaway homeless teen at the age of 16. So 16, I was a homeless runaway teen. At 17, I was hopelessly in love teen, had, gotten myself out of homelessness, started my first business as a catering business, and fell in love with, for the first time with someone who was really unhealthy for me because, I was a 17-year-old girl who didn't know what boundaries looked like and was so vulnerable that I just took on a lot of crap. So this boyfriend turned out to be a nightmare. He was extremely violent. So I was living in a space of domestic violence. I had my face reconstructed. And just when I had the strength to leave it all, to start a new life again for myself, enroll myself into school, and life was just picking up and becoming great again, only to walk home from school one day to be kidnapped and almost murdered be given my last rites by an absolute stranger and have this crazy near-death experience, to survive that and then have this man, caught by the police, have this case go through the Australian court system, and for the system to be so corrupt that they allow this perpetrator to get away with this crime. And so then you can imagine, as a 20-year-old girl, to be so broken and just crushed because having been through all these horrible, disempowering experiences, and then to become a single mother at the age of 21. So now I'm like this single parent with no hope, no education, no nothing, because nothing is working out in my life, right? But then having this baby and loving him so much that I said to myself, you know what, maybe I have somehow, been in these situations that I wish I was never in, but it's not my son's fault. He didn't ask for it. And you know what? I have the power to help give him a better life and to change the narrative of our story. And coming up with this idea to start a business with purpose. And at that time, it was the Miss India International Beauty Pageant in Australia, with zero startup. And for that to be really successful, to have 4,000 people come watch my shows at that time and do show after show, and then have this amazing opportunity to get into the food and beverage industry and take over a cafe and a bar and make it amazing. And then, meet my partner who is a tailor and take his business and then turn it into a really successful enterprise. And we had quite a few stores, and turn that into a franchise and have clients, Australian Open, having Novak Djokovic, having Beyonce, having Michael Bublé, sitting down and having lunch with Beyonce, literally, and saying to myself, you know what, does this actually make me happy? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't make me happy, because I had this story that was so profound, where I understood what it was like to, give your last rites before you're about to get murdered. And I had this profound experience for me, like to visualize the gates of heaven opening, because that's where my mind had to go in order to survive that ordeal. And, just telling myself that no matter how successful we were in the tailoring business, that I had so much more to give, because, I was really fortunate to be alive and be able to share my survival story. But so many women and children and men as well have been murdered, and they don't get the chance to share their voice. And I remember one woman in Australia being murdered. And when she was murdered and I heard the story in the press, I remember just walking out of my home that was right in front of the beach, literally walking onto the beach and saying, Gilma, I know you've been murdered, but you know what? Your death is not going to go in vain. I am going to be your voice. I'm going to be the voice of so many that weren't able to make it. And then deciding to become this speaker, not having any kind of experience, and having all the speaker bureaus in Australia just sort of look at me and go, she all right? She has no idea. And literally taking this business from zero to winning the Golden Gavel next to Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, being the first Indian woman in the world to win this Golden Gavel, being, the 9th female speaker in the world, having amazing articles being written. And I just, found this purpose, and then saying, but you know what, hang on a minute, this still isn't enough. Like, there's still more. And so I came up with this idea to start up Positive Breakthroughs, this coaching business. And here we are, turning that into a business model while speaking. So That's it.
Here we are. My
Here we are.
gosh,
So
Liza.
I've heard this story before, but Lauren, this is the first time you've heard this story. And whenever I hear it, Liza, it just reminds me that, you know, Steve Jobs actually said that life is a dot-to-dot picture, you know, and we never know why these little things happen to us in life or these big things happen to us in life. But if we look back on our lives, we are able to connect the dots and we are able to see why. And it's one of the things that, because as you know, I'm a transformational coach, and it's one of the things that I use with my clients. And whenever I look at your story, and it is so massive, the things that have happened to you have been so massive, and that doesn't take away from anybody who's watching the things that happen to you, because we all experience things in our own right, in our experiences. But really, if we can stop and look at them and say, okay, this is just a dot in my picture, and I'm going to find the gift in this. And that's what you do consistently, Liza, is you find the gift in things. Do you think that having your son was that turning point for you of discovering the gift in the things that happened to you?
I think having my son was definitely a gift, because the minute I was pregnant with him, I just knew, wow, this is the baby that's gonna take me to the next level. I just knew it. I just loved him, regardless of how he was conceived or, you know, who his father was or anything like that. I just knew that this boy was my everything, and he still is my everything. I mean, I have 5 children now altogether, so there's many kids. But yeah, I mean, he just gave me this purpose and this drive, because I didn't want him to have the same story that I was having. I wanted to be the parent that could just give him opportunity, and shelter him and protect him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I mean, your story is just incredible, Liza, and I've read a lot about you. I thought I knew a lot about you, but there's nothing like really hearing it firsthand. And I guess a story that's also so different from my own, but almost coming back to a similar path now. I want to dig into the topic of resilience, because I think it's a word that is thrown around, really,
a lot, yes,
and doesn't almost give merit to the grittiness and the emotion and the heaviness of what resilience really is. So I'm wondering if you can share with us, in one of those low moments, one of so many that you've shared, like when you were at that lowest point where you have a choice, like everyone does, some people watching this sitting in their own lowest moments, what made you go, okay, I'm going to bounce back, rather than I'm actually going to give up?
Well, I'll tell you a story about resilience. And I was traveling with my team on an engagement, and we had a stopover in the Middle East. I won't name which country, because I don't want to, you know, put down any country or anything like that, right? But we had an experience that our driver turned out to be a human trafficker, right? And our driver was actually part of terrorism and was taking me and my 2 Australian colleagues to the desert to get human trafficked. We were very blessed, because it was another, you know, God-sent blessing that we were saved by military intelligence. But when we were saved by military intelligence, we had to then prove that we were not Australian and American spies. And we were actually also facing espionage, because in order to get saved, my cameraman had to fly his drone up in the air. And so upon flying the drone, military had picked up the drone. And that's how we were then surrounded by military intelligence and then detained in military prison. And we did not know if we were going to come out alive, or we didn't know what was going to happen. We weren't speaking the language. And I was like, I remember as our passports, our mobile phones, everything was taken away from us. And I remember when we were driving to prison, I remember when I was kidnapped when I was 19, and the abductor was driving to a place that I did not recognize. And so there I was now with 2 other people Matt, my cameraman, was in another car with the males, and it was me and my Australian assistant. We were in a car, and I remember this, except that time I was alone, but now I've got two extra people that I'm responsible for. What's going to happen to them? And just looking at all these buildings and words in Arabic that I didn't understand, it was so scary. And when we were in detained, just looking at Rosie's face and the fear in her eyes, and I just wanted to take care of her, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Resilience, I think, was that moment when I just had to stay completely calm for not just myself, but for Rosie, because I love her tremendously. And also Matt, like we're family, and just to be tremendously calm, just to get through those hours. We weren't eating, we weren't able to speak to anyone. It was the most scariest thing. And then to find out from military that our driver was actually a human trafficker, and they had found footage of hundreds of people that were alive and then killed. Yeah. And so to know that we were so close and to survive. And I thought, I've been going around as a keynote speaker talking about what had happened when I was kidnapped, and no one listened to me at that time. The person who kidnapped me got away with that crime. And now nobody can say that we were not human trafficked because I had two other Australians with me, right? And yet we got through it. Resilience was when we managed to get out of prison and we had the ability to go back to Melbourne and be home safe with my family. Resilience was making the choice to actually take the next flight to my keynote engagement in Nigeria with severe PTSD and actually do that talk. And I remember doing that talk in Nigeria and literally like having my speech down pat about my life, but now I had to speak about what had just happened to the three of us. And I remember getting like the most heartwarming standing ovation at that time. And I thought, well, this is resilience, stepping over your fears. Like I cried the whole time in the flight. Like I did not stop
Liza,
crying.
I just want to ask
I know,
you,
it's
did you think about not getting on the plane?
For a moment there, yes. But I also knew so many people were waiting for us, that the advertising had gone out, and I needed to be a woman of my word, and I needed to finish the story, like not just go home as, oh my God, we were human, almost human trafficked, and this happened, and that's it. Like I needed to just finish the story and have it end as a beautiful story. And we were able to do that, and I think that's what resilience is. It's changing the narrative of your story, making sure, like if you're going through a really difficult time, don't just sit there stuck in that space. Like continue that story, but change it so that you come out a winner, and you come out, inspiring not just yourself and the people around you, but, the world.
Absolutely. I want to also just go back to when you were in that space where you didn't know, you were being driven, you didn't know what was going to happen, you didn't know whether you were going to live, whether you were going to be able to help these two individuals that you felt were your responsibility at that time as well. I'm just wondering if resilience, because I love that you say that resilience is getting through these huge challenges, but making them triumphant stories rather than something that was terrible that happened for you. But what I'm also hearing is that resilience is possibly also staying centered and calm in the eye of a storm, in the eye of a situation that is completely out of your control, that is possibly very scary, because a lot of people watching right now won't be able to relate as such completely with that traumatic experience. But I think that they can relate to being in situations that they feel out of control of and that they feel really scared in, but being able to stay centered and making the brave choices. Because as we know, being brave is not about the lack of fear, but being brave is doing the right thing despite the fear, in the face of fear. And what I'm hearing is that you very much stepped into that eye of the storm and still did what needed to happen, which was the right things, not the easy things. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, incredibly right. And not only that, even after finishing that talk and coming home, I think it was maybe 3 months later, I went back to that Middle Eastern country, but I went back alone. I made sure nobody came with me. And everyone thought I was crazy, but I needed to go back and I needed to walk the streets, of course, with bodyguard. So, it's not the same, but I needed to still walk the street. I needed to go and eat in a restaurant. I needed to swim in the pool, of the hotel. And you know what? I made new experiences. I made new friends. And when I think about that Middle Eastern country, I only have good thoughts because military intelligence in that country, they were amazing and everyone was amazing. And so just shifting the whole story. And yes, that's resilience, being able to shift.
I think another thing that really resonated for me, and you just used the word, is responsibility. And I think knowing you and knowing your businesses are so purpose-led, and this huge journey you've been on, and something that I see from our community is it's almost like you have to be completely healed before you can then serve in your purpose. But I guess what I was picking up from you is you were still very much on that journey. You were feeling the trauma, you were in it, but you had this external responsibility to people, but also to your purpose, to your event you'd committed to. And so you did it anyway. And I love that.
So I'd like to actually reframe that and challenge that, Lauren, because one of the things that I really want people to understand is all of us that are coaches and all of us that are on these journey, we are not completely healed. We are on our journey still, consistently. And so
Tony
it's
Robbins
never
is on his journey.
exactly Tony Robbins.
We're all human, right?
Exactly. And so it's not about being perfect. It's about being perfectly imperfect and really just embracing the journey and realizing that it's not a destination. It's literally the journey. We're on a consistent journey.
And you can help at 10%.
Absolutely, because there'll always be someone on your level to help, right?
But I also think it's so important to then reflect on your journey and connect the dots. So if I was to connect the dots, right, at a very young age, I'd started Miss India International Beauty Pageant. And so I was already on stage, I was already emceeing, except, we had dancers, we had a whole bunch of, people working. It was different. But I had the experience of stage at a young age already, not knowing that this was going to be my job, that I am going to be a keynote speaker until it is my last breath, because that is what makes me happy. And so, but people say, well, how do you do this on stage? How can you actually speak for 45 minutes and hold the audience? I can, because I've already had that experience, from young. So as I look back, even the terrorism experience or the human trafficking experience, it's maybe that, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, however you feel, a light, anything, doesn't want me to just speak about what it's like to be kidnapped one-on-one. What is it like to, have that experience, to be human trafficked with your team, in a foreign country? So I'm able to share that experience and empower people through that,
It's interesting for me, Liza, with both of those experiences is that the first experience happened when you were in a very disempowered state. And it was like you didn't feel supported by the universe because this person got away. And it feels to me that the universe gave you the second opportunity where you were in a more empowered state now, and you were able to actually take that and completely triumph in this second opportunity. And I find that, I'm sure that you find it as well, that our challenges come up over and over again, right? But in different ways, in different forms, until we triumph over them. So they come in little in little forms, bigger forms, but when we triumph over them, then things shift. And for me, the way you handled that second time with your crew, and then went and did the speech, it really turned it into this enlightening, empowered
Yeah.
experience. Does that resonate with you?
Definitely, but it was definitely, a really difficult time. Matt, Rosie, and I are really good friends, and it really also tested our friendship. Because by the time we got to Nigeria, Rosie, she was holding back, like a lot, because she had gone through a lot, and then there was Matt, who had all this stress. Then there was myself, and it's just managing our PTSD, and we all manage it differently. I was crying the whole time. Rosie handled it differently and Matt handled it differently, but we all held each other, and we all collectively, got through this together. So yeah, in a
So
completely different state.
I love that you're
But it
saying
was so
that
much
because
better. But it was so much. It wasn't good, but I felt blessed that I wasn't alone, and that nobody could say this didn't happen. Because imagine living a life when you've been sexually abused by your uncle and everyone around you says, no, that didn't happen. Or when you were raped, no, that didn't happen. Or when you were kidnapped, no, that didn't happen. Well, you start to think like, I remember this. I've got all the documents. I have people there that were there. There's proof. Yet that didn't happen. And so it was heartwarming to have people with me.
And acknowledgement of what you've been through.
absolutely,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most disempowering things for people who are abused, raped, victims of violence in that way, is that the world goes, no, that didn't happen, or there must be a mistake. And family members, friends, all of them do that. They even say, oh, no, don't report it. I mean, that's going to cause so much chaos for that person. And it denies your reality. And that's the psychological impact of that is so, so, so massive.
I think the person that it's the most
Liza?
hardest for would have to be my mom, because imagine having a daughter, that has been through this. For my mother, she carries the greatest pain because she didn't know how to handle it at that time, And not only that, even if she didn't know how to handle it, you don't want to believe this, because for my mom to actually accept that all these things happen, like it hurts her too much, And so for me, I think the hardest thing is, I know my mom and I have probably had this, relationship that's been a little bit tender because of everything that's happened. But her hurt, that's what gives me the greatest hurt, because everyone loves their mom, no matter what. So, yeah.
So we've got this beautiful framework for who you are, and the fact that you are this really passionate and compassionate human being. And I know you as a person, you've become my friend, which is so, I feel really honored.
Thank you.
And
I'm honored. I'm honored.
and I know that your absolute mission, because you've even described it, you've done this and that, you've sat and had lunch with Beyonce, you've done all of these things which for some people is like, I've gotten there. Do you know what I mean? I've reached success. So, but what you're doing is you're going a step further and you're saying, no, purpose. Fulfilling my purpose is success. And actually making a difference in different people's lives. And I know that a lot of women want to do that. A lot of entrepreneurs really want to fill lives with purpose. How do you balance work? How do you create a business that sustains your purpose?
Well, I think it's finding a need, filling a need. And I think that story, that's from Toy Story, and I've always taken that. So it's not mine, of course. And because I've had so many different business experiences, right? And so I had the tailoring business when we were setting up the franchise, and it cost 80 grand to come in because you needed the store, site selection, you needed the machinery, the whole lot, right? It was going to cost that much. Being able to sit with people and realize how many people actually have that kind of money. So you're cutting out half of the market, let's just say, right? And then now with positive breakthroughs, going, okay, I understand what franchising is because I've studied that, I've done it. So how about we create a business that is easy? It's not a franchise, it's a membership, but we give people opportunity. Okay, so then the price sits at 10 grand. Yeah, because the market says everyone else is doing it at 10 grand. You're giving $10,000 worth of value. That's fine. I sit with people and I go, you know what, my gut doesn't feel right. Right? No, let's make it $4,000. So you sit with people, and then people are willing to pay $4,000 to come into the business. It's great value. They're getting their money's worth. And then I go, no, I'm still not feeling good. You know, why? Because my passion is to inspire people and give people opportunities. But if I have to give it to people and say even $4,000, 4,000 Australian or US is not 4,000 Rand. You know, it's not 4,000 ringgit, right? So I'm really still cutting up the market, right? And I'm really not giving people, you know, opportunity. And so this next business model, I've decided to bring it down to $1,500, right? And cap it for everybody, right? Everybody, doesn't matter what country, it's affordable. So when you give people an opportunity where it is affordable, it's cheaper than buying a designer handbag. You give them all the tools, all the opportunity, you help them brand, because business is not just, I'm going to be a coach and it's going to be Liza coaching, or it's going to be, you know, sunshine coaching. You know, it's not. It's so much more. It's marketing, it's branding, it's, you know, it's there's so much to it. And so if you give people the opportunity to have a brand, even when they don't have branding experience, and all they need to do is study and then be able to just get into a business that's already all set up, that's what it is. You're finding a need and you're filling a need.
So
Does that
just
make
to
sense?
be clear, Lauren, so Lisa's business is actually she brings coaches in, trains the coaches up, and then they become coaches and work under an umbrella.
Or they're already trained, they've already studied, right? And they then come in and they just come straight into the business. So they become, let's say, Positive Breakthroughs Denmark, Positive Breakthroughs London. So what I'm doing at a very low cost is giving people an opportunity to cut out the marketing, cut out the branding, all the other experience that they might not have had that I have had over the years.
Amazing.
So the moral of the story is giving people an opportunity at a low cost. So I like to work backwards, and it's like, let's not think about the money. Let's think about what we can do to give people that opportunity. And when you do that, money then comes.
Absolutely. And I think two things that really resonate with me from what you've just been sharing. Firstly is your consideration of the pricing and even the different tiers of pricing. And so I so often, also working a lot with coaches, people that want to help people are like, yes, but I also want to help this person who can't afford this. And so, you know, not knowing everything about your business model, but I think a really good practical piece of advice is just tier it. So if you know, this truly purpose-led motivator, you can still have that and you can still help as many people as possible, but you're going to help the people who can invest the most a little bit more with your personal time. But that's not to say you can't have a really scalable solution for the people that can't. But then the second thing that really resonates with me is understanding that you are motivated by massive impact, and probably why you are a keynote speaker until your last breath, using your word. The way that you have been building your businesses, so the franchise model for your restaurant, and now the trainer model, rather than necessarily direct to the end user and consumer, is allowing you to have this huge multiplier effect of the impact that you can have. And so similarly at Future Females, I was in the first year, I was like, I can't help enough people for me to feel like I'm growing at the rate I need. And so we started launching chapters and empowering ambassadors and multiplying that way. So I just really want to celebrate you challenging the really traditional way of serving and building this impactful and scalable business.
Absolutely. I think it's
and
amazing.
What's even more exciting, thank you. And what's even more exciting is the people that don't have the money, right? If you're from the slums and you don't have the money, but you have the gumption to study, well, then that's okay. We will pay for you to actually come into the business. So you don't have to pay for the business. And so I'm so excited about having the opportunity of having someone from slums, of Bangladesh or South Africa, wherever, come to us, want to have a business, we'll help them. They don't have to have money. It's okay, because I start an opportunity with Zero Startup. I want to be able to give people that opportunity as well from the slums.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely love it. And we have a number of aspiring coaches in our community, as well as purpose-led entrepreneurs. And so I'm wondering if there is something practical that you can share with them from your coaching practices that they can maybe take away as a next step following this conversation.
Yes, I think the one thing, if anyone's listening to this show today, they probably have PTSD just listening to it, going, oh my God, she's been through A, B, C, D. I have PTSD. So how about I just give you a little takeaway with PTSD, all right? We, instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, we change it, P for purpose. Find out what your purpose is in life and find out what really makes you happy and be willing to take risks to, to just chase your dreams, whatever those dreams are, and believe in yourself, right? Secondly, T for trust. It's so important that you trust yourself, because if you don't trust yourself and believe in yourself, if you don't trust that you have the capability, the confidence within yourself, then no one else is going to trust you. So it starts with your relationship with you. S for success. It's so important for you to be able to visualize and see success and, think whatever it is that you want to do. Like if you want to be a baker and you want to have the best bakery, like visualize all the different breads that you're going to bake and the cakes, and start seeing that and seeing, the people that you're delivering to. And then once you have a visualization of what you want, that's kind of like a roadmap for what you have to do, the tasks that you have to do. So you got to dream and then you can do the tasks, right? So that's where success comes in. And last but not least is D for discovery. It's so important for you to step on the other side of your fears, because when you step on the other side of your fears, obviously you're going to find fearlessness. And just like I did, to go back to the Middle East after that happened and just be able to change my narrative of that outcome, or to have a baby as a single parent, and or be brave and bold to come out and share my story, not caring about what anyone would think of me. Because you know what? None of my business what you think of me or what the person next to me thinks of me if they don't like me. It's my business how I think about myself. So PTSD, purpose, trust, success, and D for discovery. Once you put that together, you reframe it, you're no longer a PTSD victim, you're a PTSD survivor and thriver. And that's what the Future Females is all about.
I love it. This is what we call a hell yeah bubbly moment. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And it's exactly what all of this is about, reframing. So thank you so much. That's such an incredible acronym.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask you one more question before I let
Please.
you go. Liza, if you could go back to being that little girl and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be just keep shining and just keep following this map, okay? Because like Dora the Explorer, who has that map, right? Like there's a map for you. And yes, through that map, you're going to be going through jungles and you're going to have to dive through the ocean. And there's going to be a pot of gold and you're going to go over that rainbow. Just follow the map. And, life is going to be this amazing journey, And at the end of that journey, you'll be able to connect all the dots and say, right, that's why I had such a colorful life. Trust me when I say there are some keynote presentations that I do when I cry, but there are, those are tears of joy, right? Complete tears of joy. And we all have amazing lives. We just have to, follow the map that has been put out for you and believe in yourself. So I would tell my younger self just to follow the map, be brave. It's okay. And don't worry. If you lose people along the way, if people misunderstand you, that's all right. Just do you, boo.
Just do you,
That's
boo.
it.
Love it.
I love it as well.
Lisa, thank you. This has all been absolutely incredible.
Thank
I'm
you.
feeling Toy
Thank you so much.
Story. I'm feeling Dora. I'm feeling like my most empowered self. Really, really appreciate your time.
Exactly.
Always such a privilege and an honor to share space with you. So thank you so much for your time and
having
your
me.
insights and your
I
wisdom.
look forward to bringing my crew, Matt and Rosie and whoever, look forward to coming to your country soon.
And
Thank you.
if we don't come and see you in Australia before you do, but you're going to come stay at me when you're here anyway. So
100% girl.
And to all of our audience tuned in, thank you for joining us once again. We are sure that you would have absolutely loved this episode, and we can't wait to see you in the next one.
looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Lots of love. Bye.